post-court, this is a post-court interview. Then I'm going to share with you in detail on your screen every section of Nigerian law that backed what Nnamdi Kanu is asking. No matter how much the media twisted it, we know this whole thing is, already as a predetermined end. Convict him. Muritala Binta Nyako did it, right? It didn't take long for their own court, appeal court, to see through this and didn't want to dance to that their tune. They discharged and acquitted Nnamdi Kanu. This is not different. So I'll take you through that. But first, back to that court and then at the post-court hearing too.
Your constitution says you cannot try anybody unless the law is written. Show me written law. Show me written law. Don't try it. Don't try rubbish. Don't try rubbish. Useless people. You don't know law. You don't know law. Your own constitution you don't respect. You don't come to judgment you don't respect. That's why we the court. Why we the court of law?
Good morning. Yes, I did. Yeah. Well, what happened in court today, for me, continues to be travesty of justice. I've always said it that in Nigeria there appear to be two sets of rules, one for the Igbo man and another for the other Nigerians. This is exactly what I saw in court today. First of all, my name is Honorable Obi Agocha. I represent the great people of Iguano, Umuahia North and Umuahia South Federal Constituency. I am the primary representative for Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. So I'm going to speak to you as a layman. I'm not a lawyer. Today, there was a motion that was filed. Previously, I believe at the end of October, another motion was filed. And none of those motions were challenged by the prosecution team. They didn't raise any objection. The court did not overrule anybody, but admitted the motion. So on what basis then is the trial, the efforts that are being put to compel Mazi Nnamdi Kanu to trial when the motions have been put and yet to be challenged by the prosecution team? Mazi Kanu is asking for a simple question: on what law is he being tried? Neither the judge nor the prosecution team have answered that. And today, that motion that was raised by Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and served to the prosecution team were not challenged. And it's very, very critical and important that we know that. However, the judge now ruled to say that he's reserved November 20th for ruling. When there are jurisdictional issues, thresholds that are yet to be overcome. So this is a political trial veiled as a criminal trial. And for the stability of the Southeast and for the stability of Nigeria in a whole, to bring to end the civil war that was fought in 1967, means that the president should please look at the totality of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's trial and bring an end to this charade, a travesty of injustice, bring an end to it so that the Southeast can be peaceful again, Nigeria can be peaceful again. But if they are determined in the way they have steamrolled this process, rushing to a judgment, then like Mazi Nnamdi Kanu says, there's a God in heaven, and the injustices that have been meted to Igbos, we will not forget. We will not forget. Even if we forget, our children and our grandchildren will not forget. Because it's important that everybody notes it, especially Mr. President, that in order for him to consolidate his goodwill for 2027, start with how he handles the matter of Nnamdi Kanu. Because you cannot be there as the father of the nation and Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is being treated in the manner that he's been treated, when every other person who has been charged with almost similar offenses as Mazi Nnamdi, a determination of the court has been let go. So why is Nnamdi still being held down, being punished, being subjugated? It's simply because he's an Igbo man. So if we get it, the president gets this right, then we'll begin the process of healing and reconciliation and putting back the Southeast back as a home where people can come and feel free in their homes without running away from all these high crime and criminalities that are happening in the Southeast. So Mr. President has an opportunity now. The world is looking at us, both from the persecution of Christians, from the persecution of Mazi Nnamdi, to know how we are going to, put our houses in order. But like I said, is one person. You can take Mazi Nnamdi if you so wish. You have the authority, but many more Nnamdi will rise because this is clearly an injustice that is being meted at one person who happens to be an Igbo man. So I plead with.
You've spoken well. And for those who live in denial, right? If Nnamdi Kanu had committed any true crime, any real crime, I don't think it's going to take them 10 years in order to find a court to convict him and jail him. Even if you want him to be jailed, if you want him to be convicted of anything that you think is like done, right? Then you should do it legally, Abi. So if you can't see through the entire compromised process, then I don't think I should be talking to you. Or maybe you shouldn't be watching this. Because if you accuse somebody of this grievous crime, then it is the onus of proof kind of is on you. You are the one to prove that he's done it. But you haven't. Not only that you've messed up the whole thing from the start, because it's a sham. Now, the current one, you are being told this is not making any sense. Now, to those of you who are probably interested, right? Now, let me give you a bit of a background or in detail, every section of that's what they call that Nigerian law, right? That they said, that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is premising his own argument on. I'm sorry if this is too tiny for you to see. Let me see if I can possibly increase the size. I don't think so. But I think you can read it, yeah? Yeah, you can read with me because I'm going to read everything. It's not that much. See, that's it. It's just the summary. Or I believe that the summary of the section that at least will guide you. Because this is the argument, okay? So the relevant sections of the Constitution of Nigeria as amended, supporting Nnamdi Kanu's argument, okay? So first, the preface to understand this, right? Nnamdi Kanu's core argument, as presented in his recent motions and court statements, right, is that the charges against him, primarily under the repealed Terrorism Prevention Amendment Act of 2013 and other defunct statutes like the Customs and Excise Management Act and all these other constitutions. I'm sure you get more. We'll skip that. So it said Section 1, subsection 3, supremacy of the Constitution. Now, here is the quote of that section. If any other law is inconsistent with the provisions of this Constitution shall prevail, and that other law shall, to the extent of the inconsistency, be void. Nnamdi Kanu proving to them that if you think your constitution is powerful, as you said, there's a section of it that actually legitimizes that. Now, how Kanu's argument is valid before Nigerian law under this section. So this section enshrines the constitutional supremacy, meaning any charge or trial relying on a repealed statute, e.g., example, the 2013 Terrorism Act repealed by Section 97 of the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022 is inconsistent with the constitutional requirement for valid subsisting law. Kanu argues that the prosecution's failure to amend the charges post-repeal creates an inconsistency, rendering the charges void ab initio. Under Nigerian law, this voids the entire proceedings, as affirmed in INEC v. Musa 2003, where the Supreme Court held that actions under inconsistent or non-extant laws are null. Kanu's motion cites this to demand dismissal, as continuing the trial perpetuates an unconstitutional process, denying him lawful adjudication. Another section of your law in Nigeria, Section 6, subsection 6b, judicial powers and criminal jurisdiction. Your law says, in quote, the judicial powers of the Federation shall be extend to all matters between persons or between government or authority, and to any persons in Nigeria, and to all actions and proceedings relating thereto, for the determination of any question as to the civil rights and obligations of that person. How does this work for Mazi, Nnamdi Kanu? The clause vests court with jurisdiction only over civil rights and obligations, which in criminal contexts presupposes offenses defined by extant law. Kanu contends that without a valid charge under current statutes, e.g. the unamended 2022 Act, the court lacks jurisdiction to determine its obligations under defunct provisions. Nigerian court in Maiyegun v. Lim in 1962 have ruled that jurisdiction is foundational. Its absence, due to repeat laws, housed the court's power ab initio. By invoking this, Nnamdi Kanu validates its refusal to defend, as entering a defense will legitimize the jurisdictional defective trial, violating due process. The Supreme Court's Federal Republic of Nigeria versus Kanu ruling binds lower courts to recognize this via judicial notice, making non-compliance a jurisdictional error. If Nnamdi Kanu decides to put up a defense as they wanted him to, it will validate the charges. That simply means that Nnamdi Kanu can no longer say, hey, you cannot convict me under this law anymore, because he's already put up a defense. So he's saying, no, I won't. And there is a section of your law that says I shouldn't, because jurisdiction is the foundation of any criminal kind of a case. You as a court, do you think you have jurisdiction according to this your law? You don't, because there's no law that you want to act on. You are the judge. They brought a case to you, right? Before you can act on that case, you need to quote a section of your law that says, this case you're about to hear, if this person is found guilty, this is the sentencing I'm going to give him or her. Now, present before you, Mr. Judge, right? You do not have that. There is no law that you want to act on right now. So you accept if you are just going to manufacture that from your mind. But I'm not going to actually stand before you and defend anything. And there is a section of your law that says I shouldn't, right? Now, let's continue. So there is another section, section 36, subsection 12, principle of legality in criminal offenses. Now here is the quote of that section. Subject as otherwise provided by this Constitution, a person shall not be convicted of a criminal offense unless that offense is defined and the penalty therefore is prescribed in a written law. And in this subsection, A written law refers to an act of the National Assembly or a law of a state, any subsidiary legislation or instrument under the provision of a law. So how does this help Nnamdi Kanu's argument here? So this is the cornerstone of Kanu's plea, embodying the nollum crimen sine lege, no crime without law principle. So it prohibits conviction and by extension trial for undefined or unprescribed offenses under non-extant laws. Kanu argues that the repealed 2013 Act no longer defines his alleged acts as offenses, and the prosecution's reliance on it without amendment means no written law exists, making the charges uncognizable. In Ahoko v. Fagbemi in 1961, the Supreme Court quashed a conviction under a non-statutory offense, affirming that trials under defunct laws are void. Kanu's position aligns with this. The repeal extinguishes the offense's legal foundation, halting proceedings pre-conviction, contra the trial court's views that it applies only at conviction. Supported by Section 36(8), presumption of innocence, and 9, no retrospective laws, it renders its detention and trial unlawful, warranting immediate release. So the summary of this is that, you see, these sections interlock to form a robust defense. Section 1(3), Section 1, subsection 3 voids inconsistent repeal. That's an inconsistent law. That's the repealed laws. Section 6(6)(b) strips jurisdiction without valid charges. And Section 36(12) mandate extant definition for any trial. Kanu's argument is not merely procedural, but constitutionally imperative. As Nigerian law prioritizes substantive justice over form, Abacha v. Faweyemi in 2000, failure to apply them as alleged breaches fair hearing under Section 36(1) and invites appellate reversal. As of November 7, 2025, the trial court has adjourned for judgment on November 20, 2025. But these provisions substantiate Kanu's claim for dismissal and release. Now, you know what Nnamdi Kanu is requesting for by this argument, right? Nnamdi Kanu is expected to walk out of their court as a free man if Omotocho is actually a judge and there is no written script. No matter what your media currently pushes or propagates in Nigeria as we speak, in the face of law, Nnamdi Kanu has no case to answer in Nigeria, none, because they've messed it up the first time they went on to attempted to kill him, right? And as things stands, the judge, who was very much upset, angry, right, decided to say, well, I am just going to actually give my judgment. Are you going to give a judgment, mister? What kind of judgment do you want to give? Dismiss the entire thing, stop the charade, and let these criminals, the Fulani terrorists, and their sponsor that wanted Nnamdi Kanu killed, simply because he actually alerted us early enough. He wanted us to be prepared 10 years ago. Nnamdi Kanu wanted us prepared as far back as 10 years ago. What many are now advocating, defend yourself, protect yourself, defend your people, and the rest of that. 10 years ago, the Fulani oligarch, the terrorists led by the now dead Boko Haram, they did everything to make you feel like alerting you of the danger coming, which majority of us are now wallowing in, right? Alerting you of this coming danger was a treasonable felony, and demanding for a peaceful, referendum where, Nigerians can decide if they still want to be part of Nigeria or not. Now things seems like going or moving faster now. Now that the Americans are now interested in the ongoing long systemic genocide that the APC, Egbekegbe, has been supervising in Nigeria. So things are about to get more, right? So Miyeti Allah will leave that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu for a sec. Miyeti Allah, who happen to be the sworn enemies of, who made the IPOB their sworn enemy. Because IPOB was like, Miyeti Allah, Asao now. Why would the Fulani others become the security of vigilantes protecting us in the southern Nigeria? Like, what kind of